All right, welcome everyone to the Top of the World podcast with Joshua Hadley, Justin Melanger, the man in the hour, the man with the power to shoot to be sour, the one Spencer Benjamin, Dolan. You still know who's coming in. We got a special guest on the show this week. We got Joe Evans. He's running for Congress. He's from Idaho.
And I'm glad to be here on the top of the world tonight. This morning. Wait. I'm still waking up, folks. I'm still waking up. What time of the week is it? It is
morning.
Thursday. Yes.
What time of the week is it? Thursday?
Close enough. We're living on Libertarian time right now, so it's all good.
It's close enough for the girls you date, Joe.
Right? I swear. We're starting World War III, and I still got my COVID decorations up. I'm all discombobulated still, so we're working on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Joe, you're running for Congress.
It's a federal seat, U.S. federal seat, Congressional District 1, representing approximately half the state of Idaho, about 750,000 people. Big dreams, big goals.
Joe, I just have to ask, first question, what the hell's wrong with you? What do you want to live in Washington, D.C. for?
Nobody wants to live in Washington, D.C., Josh. That's the thing. The people who do want to live in Washington, D.C. are not good people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We know that. But, and that's one of the things. So here in the state of Idaho is notorious for being one of the most libertarian states in the United States. We got a few others. Washington's pretty good. Wyoming's pretty good. But the thing is when you live in a libertarian state, nobody wants to step up and govern. Okay, well, at least the libertarians don't, because it's like, screw that, man. That's too much work. That's a pay cut. Why would I want to take a pay cut? To tell other people how to live. That's not the way we do things here. Just live and let live. And then you do that for about 100 years. And then next thing you know, the people who are running for office aren't really libertarian anymore. And they're not really interested in the welfare of the people because they have their reasons for being there. And next thing you know, you're running for office because if you don't run for office, some crazy ass authoritarian idiot's going to step in and say, well, my libertarian friends think we should be taking rights away from parents. It's like, wait, no, we don't, man. No, we don't. Slow your roll there, folks. But that's sort of where we're at with things is I've reached the point right now where I'm running defensively.
So you say you reached this point. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? So, what where do you come from? Are you originally from Idaho, or you like some of our Alaskan politicians where they come up here to run?
Right.
That's
actually
everyone's gonna ask that.
Yeah, well, it's a big problem we got with an awful lot of here in Idaho too. More than half of our legislators, our state legislators, actually were born and grew up out of state. They were educated out of state. It's like they graduated poli-sci in college, got their bachelor's degree or master's degree in poli-sci or whatever other useless degree they got. And they decided, I'm going to go into politics. And they're looking at things like going, well, I don't want to go into Oregon politics. Let's move to Idaho. No, but from a personal perspective, my family grew up here, and I hate doing this as a cloud chasing thing. When you start going, well, my family has been here longer than your family, and but 4 generations here in Idaho, both sides. Both my grandfathers fought in World War II. Well, can't quite say fought. They were drafted. They got in and did their little stint for World War II. I was actually born in Texas. My dad got a job with IBM shortly after my parents conceived and went down to be a government contractor in San Angelo, Texas. He was a typewriter repairman for IBM working down in Texas at one Goodfellow Air Force Base. And that's when I was born. About 6 months later, they had enough of Texas, came back to Idaho, settled down here.
I think Justin's also had enough of Texas, too.
I think 6 months is enough.
6 months is enough of Texas, regardless of how old you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. My dad's always sort of been a history buff everywhere he's gone. So it's like San Angelo, Texas. It's the heart of Texas. Well, what's Texas known for? Well, it's definitely not goats. San Angelo, Texas happens to be the goat capital of the United States. Goat ropers, goat herders. So it's like when I was growing up, hearing my dad refer to the Cowboys as goat ropers. It's like, finally explained it to me one day, and it's like down in San Angelo, Texas. They weren't raising cattle; they were raising goats. They were herding goats. Which is like one of those things. Wait. Yeah, Texas will probably never live that down, at least outside of San Angelo, anyway. But after about 6 months, we moved back to Idaho. I grew up here, did a lot of odd jobs around the valley, then eventually joined the United States Army. Joined during the Cold War, 1995, just after Somalia. I got sold on all the hype on Black Hawk Down.
Well, I was going to ask, it seems pretty strange. You're such a strong libertarian. It is pretty strange to me that you, like in your younger days, you're out here joining the government, being part of the military,
The thing is an awful lot of us who are more libertarian, stronger libertarian, or anarchist, or however you really want to look at it. It was the growth frame. It was the wanting to believe in things and the total disillusionment with what it represented that we come back out of it and we're looking at things and going, you know what, can we stop with the hype? The hype isn't living up to the dream. The reality isn't there. And what you send us over to do, the way it gets done, the way you've decided to use the United States military to build nations, to extend the empire, to control and influence U.S. corporate policy around the world. It's not fair. It's not a responsible approach to human rights, to the global community. And it's one of those things, 1995 is the Cold War. Little things here and there. We hadn't really had an extended war since Vietnam, where we had a lot of young men that were pulled into the draft. Everything was just, we thought we were preserving, freedom in the United States, because we really hadn't put people on the ground in any meaningful way since Vietnam. Then along comes 2001, which was funny. I was in Korea at the time, stationed at Camp Humphrey. No, it wasn't Humphreys. Stationed down south with an intelligence center when the towers were hit. And I was there with my ex-wife and my two oldest kids. And I can't remember the exact time because the time was all off, because I'm like 8 hours off of New York time. And everybody were sitting there in the facility, and next thing we know, the planes hit the towers, and we're getting policy and lockdown and ideas. And those of us who are living off post, we get the message, go home, tell your family what happened, make sure everything's safe and secure. And it's like, here I am in the middle of a foreign nation. It's an allied nation, and the whole world gets turned upside down. And this was 1 month before I redeployed back to the United States, and I was on my way to Fort Drum, New York. So it's like everything just shifted, everything changed, and I'm trying to grasp what's going on. And I'm thinking, this is what I joined for. This was the fight for freedom. This was the fight for U.S. foreign policy. And, and it's like after 4 deployments, I'm like, yeah, we're not doing this right. Things aren't what we were told they were. And I got out and decided I needed to reimagine myself. Got out. 3 years later, I had 2 bachelor's degree with 2 minors.
Damn.
And was looking into politics. Bernie Sanders inspired me.
Well, he inspired me too. I joined the campaign and worked with it here in Alaska.
That's an interesting aspect about libertarians who originally got into politics because of Bernie Sanders. It's like here it was 2016, Bernie Sanders is running, and it's Bernie Sanders versus Hillary Clinton, and we're trying to figure out the future of America. And we're going, well, we're done with the Republicans. We're done with the Republicans. So who's our, and everybody's looking at Bernie, and Bernie's doing the speeches and he's saying the right things and he's going, yes, yes, yes. And that's one of the interesting things, in my conversations as I continue on with my development as a libertarian, is just understanding how many people, 90% of Americans want the same thing.
Yeah.
We want the same thing. We want to be able to make sure our families are taken care of. We want to make sure we have a job. We have a roof over our head. We want to pay for the things we want. We want to be able to pay for our house. Nobody really wants the free handout. They just want to be able to participate in an economy that respects them.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter whether they're tankies, communists, socialists, Democratic Socialists of America, Green Party, your average person in America, 90% of the population, they just want to be able to participate in an economy that respects them and gives them a fair life, a reasonable degree of happiness for the effort they put into their day-to-day work, and as long as they get that, you'll start seeing the differences, go away. And what we end up seeing complicating the issue more often than not isn't so much the what, it's the how. How do we get there?
Absolutely.
Right? And then you start looking, well, what's the solution? And it's like your statists want to go, we need more state. And those of us who are on the libertarian anarchy side going, you got more state. How do you think more state's going to solve the problem you have with the state you got now? Oh, we'll just change it. It doesn't work that way, man. When you grow up in a libertarian state like Idaho or Alaska, where it's the carpetbaggers that are running the political scene, because nobody who's born to the state wants the job. It's not what we want to do. We don't want to tell people how to live. Carpetbaggers show up. They want to tell people how to live because it's advantageous to their sponsors that they write more laws that continue to control the people. And like I mentioned earlier, next thing you know, you got people who are looking, well, we got two choices here, folks. We can either run or we can start shooting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are we at the stage where we're going to start shooting yet? I didn't think so.
Not quite yet.
Not quite yet. But that's one of those things that's dangerous. We all got the anarchist friends. Voting doesn't count. Voting doesn't mean anything. Well, until you're shooting, why aren't you voting?
I'll say this really quick. When it comes to voting, voting is just one thing we could do. It's certainly a tool that we should use. I think, unfortunately, most people, even during the presidential elections, half the people vote. And, I'm sure you've done research as a candidate who's running now, on the off years, it's turnout's a lot lower. I've done research into running a local campaign here, and with 1,500 voters to win an election, you need 300, and
right.
that'll get you over half.
Right.
And you say most Americans agree on things if they're not willing to vote or pay attention to candidates, how are we gonna get whatever we want?
And that's one of the things is an awful lot of people, they think government's just going to take care of itself. About 50% of our population, somewhere around there, they get their needs met. They got a house, they're able to raise their families, their kids are able to go to school, they got enough, or they did,
it's either that or they're so really poor people don't vote. They just think, with this current system, why even participate if it doesn't,
right?
I'm not going to be helped at all.
Or they're overwhelmed. We continue to see government show up, executive agencies, more and more control over what the decisions people can and can't make. And this is one of the things that's interesting about marketing, especially when it's related to politics. Okay. People in the United States don't like choices. They don't.
Yeah.
They have their patterns. They have their ways of accomplishing things. If they're actually confronted with a choice, you have decision freeze.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, 2, 3, maybe 4 choices from a marketing perspective. If you have more than 4 choices, you lose clients as a marketer, because then your client has to spend the extra energy to process the other choices. Now, this isn't true for all things, because if we take a look at clothing and certain other things, but for the most part, you want to be able to keep your choices down to just a few. And when you show up at a primary election and there are 8 choices, people are going, what? You know,
Yeah.
they're going to go for the one that's been pushed the hardest. They're going to go for the one that has the name recognition. This is one of those things we saw during Trump. You know, Trump wasn't anything special.
Yeah, I'd say really
Republican.
quick, like Trump, like, you know, as much as he talks, or well, the way he talks, you know, what did he do that was outside, like, other than some things being a standard Republican president?
Yeah. But of the 18, you know, that were up there, he wasn't the best candidate. He wasn't the most well-spoken. He didn't understand, you know, the scope of the issues the way certain other candidates did, but he talked a good game and he had name recognition. And for enough people, that was it. Well, of the 16 people on the list, where's the name that I recognize? You know, so it's not that Trump won because he was good. It was Trump won because he had a brand. And for anybody who's been following somebody as wealthy as Trump, you know, the brand is managed by his people.
And Justin, I will say something on Trump really quick. Just on name recognition, I remember the first time I heard about Trump running for president was in a Facebook group in 2008. And I thought it was so stupid. Like, a woman was saying, you know, Trump ought to run. And I was just thinking, why pick a reality TV show star? Like, what is it to him that like makes you decide to like, vote for him? And I think Justin, like, he wasn't your grandpa, no, but like someone you lived with, really liked wrestling, and I think, did he vote for Trump or did he just like Trump because he like
he voted for Trump?
Vince McMahon.
He voted for Trump, but that's just because he voted for Republicans, regardless of what the point was. The thing with me that was hilarious about Trump is the fact that he was supposed to be the president in Sharknado. And like the idea of Trump being president was so ridiculous that they made it a plot point in Sharknado.
Which is I don't know if you ever seen those films, Joe. They're just the most ridiculous things ever.
Yeah.
They're like, Trump will be president. I mean, it is ridiculous.
Well, I mean, okay, Jaws, you know, they had the same mayor in Jaws 2 that they had in Jaws 1. Like, they didn't learn that the mayor didn't know how to handle shark attacks in the first one. You know, they elected him a second time. You know, so here we see Trump as president in Sharknado, you know, which it was a deliberate beast flick. It was a spoof. It was designed to be, you know, every bit as over the top, campy, ridiculous as Snakes on a Plane.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll say this really quick too. I really feel like Trump, a big reason he won is he brought in the ratings, and the media just kept talking about. I used to be tuned into MSNBC a lot back when I was a liberal. You know, I couldn't watch it anymore because they'll just put a camera on where Trump's empty podium before he would walk in, just so that when he walked in, they could get all the ratings to when you would tune in. Like, you know, I mean, people like Republicans will joke about Trump derangement syndrome, but I think it was a real thing, and still kind of is.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. You know, in the same reason that we still have Hillary derangement syndrome. You know, the 2016 race came down to not to who is the best, but who wasn't the worst. And it was all about the brand to the people, you know, whether we were looking at Hillary, whether we were looking at Trump, you know, it was the brand that decided it. And it didn't decide it in a good way. It decided it in, you know, who do I not want to vote for? Do I have, you know, and without realizing that there were 2 other options at the time. You had Gary Johnson and Jill Stein, you know, both of them were there and available. But at the same time, they were so low key, nobody heard about them. You know, they only had ballot access in like 45, you know, Gary Johnson had like 45 or 50 state ballot access or something. So nobody took him seriously. The duopoly was bombarding us. And it's like, guys, we got other options. No, we don't. So we got to choose the lesser of the 2 evils, which was tough because, I mean, the Clintons were at the Trump wedding with Melania, you know, it's like, it's a big club. You're not in it, guys. They were friends, the Pied Piper candidate, you know, in order to disrupt the Republicans. You know, the whole thing was going on. Prior to 2008, Trump was longtime Democrat, you know, And all of a sudden he's no, people don't change colors like that. Leopards don't change their skin. Tigers don't change their stripe. Yeah, let's go there. Tiger King. No,
Oh
yeah.
I absolutely love the show, but like
Tiger King. 2020. Everything that just epitomized the entire era of Trump as president. The Tiger King documentary and Carol Baskins. It's like, what reality are we in, man? What reality? But back to where I came into politics, and the whole thing was, I went into Bernie and I was looking at the candidates, and then I realized that the DNC, the Democrat National Committee, had literally sold out to Hillary.
Absolutely. It's the reason that was the reason I left the part. That I joined the Democratic Party to vote for Bernie in the primary, and after all that came out, and Hillary couldn't even win anyway. She couldn't beat the worst candidate in history. Like I got back out and went back to the Green Party.
We did a caucus here in the state of Idaho for the Democratic Party that year to determine how many candidates each, or how many representatives each of the candidates got for the Democrat Party, and the way that they decided. And it was like the caucus wasn't even over, and I knew where things were going. And it's like I left volunteering on the floor of the Idaho Democratic Party caucus and went straight to the Green Party. Vote hadn't even been made yet. It's like, okay, this isn't working. So I started looking, and this was 2020. I'd finished my 2 degrees, been out of the military about 2 years, 3 years. I was doing work as a peace activist, which was one of those things, Answer Coalition. And if anybody's familiar with the Answer Coalition, it's an anti-war, anti-apartheid movement based here in the United States. So, but most of the people, and it's an anagram for something, I can't remember what it is, but it's like you got Veterans for Peace and some other organizations like that, and Answer Coalition, and most of the people who participate in Answer, they actually have 2 roles. They're in the anti-war coalition with Answer, and most of them are also the Party of Socialization and Liberation, which, if you actually pay attention to their politics, they're Marxist-Leninists, they're tankies. So here I am in the middle of Idaho, an extremely libertarian state, working with the Green Party, or trying to work with the Green Party, because it doesn't really exist in the state of Idaho. And the only people who are showing up to protest Obama are the tankies. And it's like, we need to bring awareness, and I'll be out there with you. Can we not wear the marks and the CCP and the
why can't
you're gonna do that, aren't you?
They just can't wear their normal clothes, like how they'll show up at the store. If I went to a protest, I mean, I'm not saying you should always be professional or whatever, but I'd probably want to show up the way I'd show up to work. Not that I don't have silly clothes like with pro wrestlers on them, but I think that at that point, you kind of want to be taken seriously.
Well, when you show up at a protest down at the Capitol building, and you got your Che Guevara shirt, and you're wearing your Marx lapel pin, and your little red star on your little Mao Zedong cap, dude, it's Idaho. It's Idaho. Read the room, guys. Read the room. So it's like you literally have anti-war protesters down there protesting the anti-war protest because of who's doing the protest. And it's like,
imagine so.
Guys, I get it. Okay. But I moved from the Green Party, and then I was looking at that and going, you know what? The support just isn't here. In Idaho, I understand why, because Idaho is an extremely red state. So the enemy of my enemy is, well, I'll vote with the Democrats, because the Democrats at least get people to run. And a lot of people were on that mindset, but I was looking at the Democrat Party and going, you know what? Both of them are just too corrupt. I can't honestly stand by one or the other or run as a candidate. We need to do something to break this mold. We need to do something to break this pattern. So that's when I stepped back and was going, okay, the Green Party hasn't hit a critical mass where it's sustainable in the state of Idaho. I'm looking at the libertarian philosophy as an option. Mises Caucus, Libertarian Party, looking at the platforms and they're going, well, they're anti-war. That's good. Individual choice, limited government, personal responsibility. I like all those. Localized government. Okay. Doesn't specifically say it allows it, but it doesn't disallow it. Most Green Party and libertarians come at things from an anti-federalist perspective. Power to the people, power to the states. As long as you're not violating human rights as a state, it's all good, right? So I was looking and starting to do the talk show circuit and meeting people and going, you know what? Libertarian's not a bad deal, and started digging into it deeper. And again, that's one of the problems here in the state of Idaho for the past 15 years. The libertarian branding has had a real difficult time. Reason why is because everybody who is anti-establishment claims to be a libertarian.
Yeah, we want to talk about libertarianism. I think the issue gets confused, and a lot of people call themselves libertarian. Like Ben Shapiro calls himself a libertarian. He kind of libertarian. Like the guy talked about banning pornography.
Right. Well, and there are things that go into that. I mean, there's certainly, certain groups will call it nuances, regarding about culture, society, commitment, other things like that, and what the role of government should be involved in things. But when you look at people like Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro, and here in the state, in Washington state, you got Matt Shea and a certain number of other individuals, is they're anti-establishment, okay? Anti-establishment doesn't make you anti-authoritarian. It just makes you anti-establishment. You don't get to call yourself a libertarian. Well, okay, you do. Freedom of speech.
Yeah.
You can call yourself a libertarian all you want because you're against the establishment and you're fighting the establishment, you're fighting the man. But if you're being honest about where you are in that fight, thing is you just don't want the rules that the current team has decided are the rules we're going to follow. You don't like those rules. You want to change the rules. That's still an authoritarian perspective. You still want to make rules. You just want the rules to be rules you like rather than the rules that are. And that's where you start running into problems with an awful lot of the anti-establishment people who have identified as libertarian is they burn the brand. It's like, I believe in religious freedom. That is, I believe in my religious freedom to tell you what religion you can choose. Most people who are actually well-versed in slow your roll, man. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
If you want to be able to say anything, you need to be able to allow me to say something, anything. You can't say, I believe white lives matter. And then when I show up at a protest and say, well, Black Lives Matter, you don't show up with a gun to tell me that I can't say Black Lives Matter if you're running around saying, well, white lives should matter. No, guys, it doesn't work that way. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion. If you're not actually respecting other people's freedoms, you're still authoritarian. You're not libertarian.
Yeah, I know. I think the best definition I heard for libertarianism or being a libertarian is wanting the maximization of freedom at the individual level.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. Do I want you to have your freedom of religion? Yes, I want you to be able to worship as you see fit. Do I want you to be able to say things? Yes. I do not want the government showing up and arresting you for something you say. If I'm offended, I want you to be able to offend me. So I know better than to associate with you. But that doesn't mean I want a no-knock raid on your door in the middle of the night that's going to take you and your kids away. No, I want you to be able to work and continue to communicate. As long as you're not being violent, say what you need to say. We can have a discussion about it. The second government starts throwing out the policies saying, well, you can't say this word. And that's what we got with Facebook and social media and Twitter right now. Literally the algorithms out there going, boom, sorry, use this combination of words in this sequence. You're banned from society now. It's like, wait, what?
I've been suspended several times on Facebook for saying fuck white people.
Right?
Well, you should have said with the condom. then they will
Oh
understand.
yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Fuck white people.
Mm.
Without a condom. No, wait.
Oh man.
Hold on.
So I'll say this, Joe. I don't understand why. Like, I won't say I'm an anarchist. Like, I think there should be government at some level. Like, maybe someone needs to name the street or something or whatever. Like. All right, so we're back. Of course, when we start complaining about the algorithms, about big tech, they kick us off the meeting. I think they're after us, guys. So, well, my point was, I'm fine with government doing things like here. There's no way we'll get mail without it costing a lot of money. So I'm fine with like a post office, wherever. I mean, not every place maybe needs a post office, but some certainly do. What I really don't understand, like one of my biggest gripes, or I don't know if this ain't the biggest gripe, but I think it's really funny thing to think about is, I think we'd all agree, like no one really has the right to just outright kill people. Like it's not me, not you, Joe, not Justin. Like we can't go out and kill someone.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, the government has that right. Like, where the hell does that come from?
That's actually an interesting aspect. I brought the issue up on Twitter the other day, because an awful lot of people like, well, the law leads the culture. The law sets the standard for the culture. And a lot of this has to do with more about, how we are currently writing legislation around reproductive rights here in the United States. And a lot of people are going back to, this idea that, we need the state to legislate. We need the state to control certain aspects of reproductive capacity. A lot of us are going, no, not really. And they go, well, if it wasn't for the change in culture and the change in the laws where we made slavery illegal in the United States. And I went, slow down here a moment, guys, because the thing is, without the laws that codified slavery wasn't a thing. Every society, every culture that had slaves codified the process of taking slaves and whether or not slaves were considered, part of the community or so on. So this was no, we didn't write slaves abolishing slavery, or we didn't write laws abolishing slavery. We wrote laws repealing slavery.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So when it comes to, are we really going to go down this road of writing more laws? Are we? Do we really need to?
Well, maybe we should, but unfortunately, the people that are doing it are bought off.
and yeah, but that's it. One of the things that we liked about the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, back in Declaration of Independence, 1776, July 4th, Happy Birthday, America. And then May 20th or whenever it was, 1987, or yeah, and you're looking at the Declaration of Independence, or the U.S. Constitution. The Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where they decided that the Articles of Confederation were no longer the rules by which the United States government were going to function. We're going to restructure and come up with this whole new idea. And the Federalists in Hamilton were championing, let's go government, which was funny because despite, less than 13 years between the two events, less than half of the people who signed the Declaration were involved in the signing of the U.S. Constitution. Benjamin Franklin just happened to be one of them. But we step back and we go, what happened to a simpler government? What happened to the idea of we the people, for the purpose of creating a better union, where we gave everybody the freedom to exercise and do what they did in the westward expansion into the wilderness, where there weren't laws, where there weren't governments, so that people could create a future on their own. Now, we all know that the reasons for the westward expansion weren't good. Most of it was everybody wanted land. They wanted more land than they could actually handle, more land than they could actually use.
Yeah, I'll say this when it comes to the revolution. Not we, like they remember, there's a 200 the
years
people
ago.
back in the day. in the in the East Coast, you know, they said, all right, we're gonna kick out the king, and then they later on they decided to make this government where we basically have an elected king now. I mean,
Well,
you know,
the nice thing is it's a controlled exchange, you know, except for a couple assassinations, you know, like Lincoln and Kennedy and, you know, a couple others, you know, everybody was perfectly happy to allow, you know, the president for a day be president for 4 to 8 years, you know, exceptions like LBJ or FDR who got, you know, a 4. It's like, you've been president too long, man. You know, you were only supposed to be king for a day. You know, we don't need a king for 4 years, sort of thing, or for 12 years, 16 years. You know, time to move on and give somebody else a chance to be king. But it's like, you step back and it's like, well, what was George Washington really thinking? You know, when Hamilton came to him and said, "Will you be king of the United States?" You gotta admit, you know, George was landed well. He had his plantation. You know, he liked his little spot in Virginia overlooking the Delaware. He had got an army of slaves, you know, even though Betsy Ross herself was an abolitionist. You know, you look at everything that was going on in the movement, and here you got President, you know, George Washington, war hero, and he just got asked to be king for life or president for life. I was like, what was he really thinking? Now, personally, because Hamilton did this while Thomas Jefferson happened to be away in France, as George was looking at the situation going, you know, if I take this job, Thomas Jefferson's going to come back from France with a guillotine and I'm going to lose my head.
That could have been.
You know, yeah, because we all know Tom was not happy to come back and find what Hamilton had done with the Constitution. Yeah, as a matter of fact, he was downright livid. It's like, I go to France to be ambassador for, and this is what I come back to? What? You know, it's one of those things. We want to harken back to those simpler days, you know, where we were looking at, you know, just let people be themselves. Let them do what they need to do to take care of themselves and their community. You know, are they able to step up and help a neighbor? Are they, you know, willing to be good neighbors? You know, can we just get back to that simpler life? Do we need a federal government with a budget of 2 trillion or 7 trillion, whatever we're currently up to? You know, running up the deficit spending, you know, running up the budget, the debt. Do we really need that much overhead just to walk down the street on a given day, just to walk to a grocery store, just to walk down to the market? You know, no, we don't.
So really quick, often this is a video game podcast, so I'm gonna make this. This is for real though. Like, I'm gonna ask this question: do we need a government that takes a quarter of our money to give Activision Blizzard $1 billion or billions of dollars when they make $1 billion a year on their stupid Call of Duty games?
Dude.
I mean, oh no, we absolutely need that, Joe. What are you talking about? We absolutely need.
Okay. To be fair, you know, Call of Duty and some of those first-person shooters, they're a hell of a training game. You know, the idea that the United States Army and the Department of Navy sat down and said, look, ammo's not cheap, and environmental impact, putting bullets down range, you know, but more than anything is we need you, Blizzard and Activision, to create a game that teaches people to actually shoot people. Think about it for a moment. Okay, during Vietnam, one of the things that they realized about combat, about draft, was that all of these young men who were drafted couldn't shoot another human being. They'd pretend, they'd load up the rifle, and they'd go down, they'd point it downrange somewhere and pull the trigger. Okay? You'd have 20 guys shooting at the same target. All 20 of them will miss. And how do all 20 of you miss at, you know, 300 yards? Well, part of it is most human beings, the vast majority of human beings, are not actually wired to shoot or kill something that looks like them. You know, we're not. It's like, you know, the Civil War. Yeah, there were an awful lot of casualties during the Civil War. Most of the casualties were for cannon, you know, that big steel ball addressed to whom it may concern. You know, because it's not a bullet with your name on it. It's just this big steel ball that goes rolling through, you know, lines of men that are standing in line waiting to get mowed down. You know, but even during the Civil War, you know, people who were marksmen, people who were hunters, people who could take down a deer with a 50 caliber musket at 200 yards couldn't hit a human being at 100 feet away because they weren't wired to actually shoot at other people. Now, we talk an awful lot about the violence of video games. Okay. Even with video games, most people just don't decide to go out and kill other people. They don't.
Absolutely.
You know, we've proven that, you know, 40 years of first person shooters now, you know, as a general rule, we still don't have any significant portion of the population that decides I'm going to go out and kill somebody today. We don't, because human beings just aren't hardwired to walk around murdering. I know there's people out there that say, you're full of shit, Joe. You're full of shit. I know people who kill people, you know, for cutting their butter wrong. Yeah, it's probably about 1 in 50 of the people you actually know that'd be willing to do. And there's those exceptions. There are always that 1 in 100 who, you know, can do it. Again, statistics in the Civil War, statistics in Vietnam bear that out. You know, 1 in 20 people are actually capable of shooting a human being when handed a gun and pointed in their general direction and said to pull the trigger.
Yeah, you know, unless I was like super pissed at someone, I don't think I could do it.
You're looking down your barrel and you're going, "What'd Charlie do to me, man?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You know,
he's not even looking at me. This doesn't feel. And you got some butterbar who doesn't even have a gun in his hand saying, "Shoot him! You shoot him!" I'm supposed to tell you to shoot him. You shoot him. I'm not going to shoot him.
Well,
I'm not going to shoot him.
Exactly.
You know, you end up with this thing going back and forth, and it's like, yeah, some people think, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, about only 1 in 20 people are actually capable of picking up a gun, looking down the barrel, and pulling a trigger to kill someone, even if they're mad.
Yeah, well, true. And I think that goes to, you know, I think we ought to trust people more, you know, laws governing people's lives. Like, I mean, for how long I think it was in the 90s where the Supreme Court decided, oh, you know what, anal's fine. I mean, how long was that? I mean, it's ridiculous, right. You know. But unfortunately, I think we're keeping Justin from obligations he had going. I know you got things to do. I got work, so I could talk to you for hours, Joe. You know,
we honestly could. You know, but some of the things that we really need to step back. You know, I talk an awful lot about anarchy as part of my process, but the thing is I am a pragmatic anarchist. I do not believe that we can just, you know, one day turn off government and everybody's going to be able to function the next day. Yeah, there are things that we need to start whittling away. There are things in government that we do not need government to do for us. There are decisions we can make on a personal level that we do not need government to take our number of options and reduce them down to the very small window of left versus right. You know, we are capable of optimizing our own lives. And that's one of those things as a pragmatic anarchist, as a pragmatic libertarian, is I want to make sure everybody understands. I don't want to just walk in on day one and turn off the government. That doesn't serve my purpose. That doesn't serve the people of the United States. But at the same time, there is so much interference that the government has on a day-to-day basis that it has no reason for.
So tell me, Joe, are you in a libertarian primary, or are you gonna be in the general election?
That's awesome. No, for the first time in like 20 years, Idaho is actually having a libertarian primary, but it's only for the governorship. Yeah, we ended up with 2 libertarian candidates for governor. We have John Dion Jr. He's our right libertarian for governor. And we have Paul Sand. He's our left libertarian for governor. You know, and it's interesting seeing where they decide to split the line. You know, and how they relate to their version of libertarianism. But we will have a libertarian, but no, it won't be me. My election won't be till November, which is ironic because this is one of the few federal seats in the state of Idaho, executive seats, where there won't be a primary, not even for the Republicans.
Yeah.
Republicans don't have a primary for my district this year either. So literally myself, the incumbent, and the Democrat will not actually be put on a stage together until after the primaries, which is going to be interesting. You know, day after the primaries, and you're watching the fallout from an 8-person Republican primary for the governor's seat. You know, and our congressional district incumbent is going to have to come out and say, yeah, probably not the one I would have picked, but I can work with.
So, folks, it's real easy. Election day for federal elections in America, first Tuesday of November. So
November 7th, I believe, is the day. The election is first Tuesday.
I checked. It's November 8th.
Yes, 8th.
Vote early. Do a mail-in
Yeah.
ballot.
Yeah, 7th is Monday. Well, actually, no, November 1st would be the first Tuesday.
No, but it's the
Right.
first Tuesday of November. Oh wait, no, yeah. No, I'm getting it wrong. Holy shit.
November 1st is the first Tuesday of November this year.
We're screwing Joe over by saying, yeah, November the second.
It's one of those Tuesdays in November. You know,
Yeah.
It's one of those. For some reason, it's in my head. It's the first Tuesday, but if it's on the 8th, it's not the first Tuesday. It's the second.
Yeah, what's wrong?
You know, but
Guys,
didn't
you know
we
what?
have an election on November 2nd last year? Why wouldn't we have it on November 1st? Why'd they decide, you know, not the first Monday if it's the first day? I don't know.
Guys,
All right.
why don't you just go vote early and vote for Joe?
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate being on top of the world today. Love what
It was
you
really
guys
fun
are
having
doing.
you here.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
And I really want to make sure you guys out there have fun. Yeah, that's what it's all about. We want to give you the maximum choice in order to achieve your maximum happiness in your maximum drive. Family, friends, community. As long as you got those 3 things, you can make anything happen. Follow me on Twitter. ID Joe for Congress. You can follow and go to my website, idahojoeforcongress.org. Still work in development, but we're getting it built out. And again, thank you for having me here today on Top of the World. Take care,
Absolutely.
guys.
Thanks for coming on. Man.
Mhm.
Make sure to vote early for Joe. Don't avoid the lines and do a mail-in ballot or something.
As soon as early voting opens up. Yep.
Mm,
Okay. You guys have a great day.
you too.